Let's start out with the governor. You got 5 minutes when you come up here. And when you get done with the 5 minutes, Adam is watching, and we're going to give you a sign. I'll probably walk up there beside you. And once your 5 minutes is up, we're going to take a couple of questions from the audience. Please be respectful to each other, if you will. We're all friends here. All right. So let's get it started. James Russell, are you with us? Yeah. Right there. James, here you go.
Don't want to trip you up. Good evening, everybody. Appreciate y'all having me. This is an amazing turnout. Want to thank Paula for calling me and setting this up ages ago and keeping me informed on the changes. Been looking forward to it for a while. My name is James Russell. Please, everybody just calls me Russ. That's if you see the Russ for Arkansas stickers around, that's me. A little bit about me. My wife and I own an outpatient mental health care clinic in Little Rock that expanded, of course, statewide with the advent of telehealth and the COVID surge. And a lot of people are like, well, how does mental health translate into running politics? Watch the news. That's self-evident. We need somebody who can get in there and be a voice of reason and actually, the term reach across the aisle suddenly means a whole different thing. We need somebody who can actually bring people back to reality and bring things back to a normal discussion between rational adults to make decisions that can benefit us as a whole. Not just one party or another, not just about who's got control on something, but what's going to benefit our Kansans down on the ground. So that's what I want to bring, is that voice of reason, that temperament, to where you want to throw slings and arrows on Twitter, I don't care. You want to say bad things on social media, whatever, I've heard way worse. We've got to have someone who leads not simply by the office, but is also leading by example and setting what the tone is for us as a state. And that is what I want to bring, is the ability to represent each and every person. Again, I'm from Little Rock. We've been talking to a bunch of the people. A lot of the rural voices feel like you're not heard anymore. I still got real strong rural ties. My dad's up in Yellville. He runs the only potable water company in the state. So when we talk about infrastructure and things like that, and they want to get roads built, yeah, I've seen those roads. I've seen them drive a 2-ton truck down them. So I know the kind of work that we need to do in the state to bring everybody up to par, to make sure that everyone's got equal opportunity, access, and freedoms within this state. We've got to make sure that everyone is preserved and that no one is left behind. So that's what I'd like to bring. I don't ever burn up 5 minutes on it. Please, any questions anybody has, I'm more than happy. Yes, sir.
Excuse me. Thank you, sir, for your willingness to serve. I've noticed in this community, Clinton, and I haven't been here long enough to get around to every place. My name, by the way, is Mike Cook. I'm secretary for the Blind and Veterans Association, State of Arkansas. Pleased to meet you.
Pleased to meet you.
What I've noticed is that not a whole lot of attention given to access for disabled. We also have a problem within our state, and this is not just Arkansas, but there are several states throughout the nation. There's a large amount of, frankly, suicide amongst veterans. Due to the COVID situation and the budgetary constraints, etc., the disabled and the veterans, they're going to need our assistance. However, we all have our needs. So when you mentioned that you were interested in the people on the ground, I call them the grassroots, how are you going to implement those things? What's your plan for implementation?
One is by trying to work at the local level to make sure that all voices are being heard. I do not intend by any means to be the governor that sits in Little Rock at the Capitol and you hear about it on the news. I am the one that if you hear about a problem, I'm going to probably show up by the end of the business day. Bottom line is Arkansas is not that big a state. There's nowhere I can't be inside of a few hours to find out what's going on. But I want to work with the local level and hopefully work with the legislature to work and make sure that when the budget's coming through, that needs are being addressed. Because what we've seen over time, if you look historically, and you can find this in education, healthcare with veterans, all kind of stuff, you see them cut the funding until a system fails, then blame the system for failing, and then try to privatize it to profit off of it. You got to break that cycle. You got to go back and go, well, wait a minute, the system failed because you set it up to. Let's go back and fix that. So being willing to point out the historical facts of here's where you cut something and then didn't go back and counter and put that back in place. Being willing to have those discussions. And part of it is being cognizant of the needs of the disabled and the needs of everyone, the varied needs of everyone in the state. Again, having a background in the medical profession, we have to make accommodations for whoever's coming in. We don't turn anyone away. Often even to the fact of we don't take your insurance, that's fine, we'll take you and get you to see somebody until we can find you someone that does. That's just the nature of how we do business. That's the nature of who I am. That's the nature of how we conduct ourselves. And again, it's a level of compassion that needs to be brought to the office where it's easy to get lost in the statistics and look at the bottom line on it. But you lose the humanity. You start losing the sight of who are the people being impacted by this. Good example might be more directly to what you're talking about. Earlier this year, in June, they released the announcement that we had a $890 million budget surplus. But during that same time frame, they released a report that over the past 2 years, fewer children in the state have had access to adequate health care. And that's gone right along with veterans and everything else. So how are you going to tell me that you have a budget surplus when people are suffering and dying and going without aid? Someone has to be willing to call that out. That's me, because that was my public statement with the press was, here's the problem. I'm not afraid of calling those things out because we have to have those discussions. So how would I address them? By using the powers of the office to draw attention to them, by not letting people dodge them, and by calling it out and holding them accountable for why are we not taking care of our citizens. Does that address the question adequately? Thank you. I know I was getting the 5-minute mark. If any other questions, feel free to come talk to me one-on-one. It doesn't have to be in this manner. I know sometimes it's easier one-on-one. Come holler at me. Get my business card. It's got a personal cell on it. Give me a call, shoot me a text anytime. I'm happy to answer questions any and all times. Thank you very much.
James Russell. Thank you, James. All right, up next, I'm going to butcher this name. It's the Sophia Exe Prastic.
Yeah, you did butcher it. It's Supa.
Supa, okay.
Cypress said the X is silent.
Uh-huh.
Maze. Now that's English. You didn't butcher that up.
Is that you, I gather?
That is me.
Well, come on up here.
That's fine.
I'm sorry about that.
No. You're not the only one. Good evening.
Good evening.
I am so delighted. My name is Supa. The H is silent. Cypress said the X sounds like S. Mays is my last name. I'm so honored, delighted to be here this evening. Thanks to Helena for reminding me. I actually just got back from another meeting, but I want to make sure that I come here to Clinton County to meet all the beautiful citizens of this county. I am excited because I am the only woman in the Democrat Party. We have 3 candidates that are men that are running. I commend all of them for wanting to serve. I actually came here to America when I was 6 years old. I go back to my background. My mother came to America as a widow. My dad went missing. He was a veteran. So she brought us to America to have a better life and to be safe from communists. So my mother came here with 3 little girls. I was 6 years old. My youngest sister was 18. She brought her little brother who was 12. and her sister who was barely 17. So imagine this woman who came to a foreign country. We were routed to go maybe see my aunt in London, but she decided she wanted to bring us to America because it's a land of opportunity. It's a great place to be. And then we were routed. Then we were going to go to California, but my mother's best friend who lived in our country said, no, Pat, don't go there. Come to Arkansas, Fort Smith. That's where she was at. She said it's a small town, it's wholesome. You could raise family here. And that's how we ended up in Fort Smith, Arkansas. So I grew up there. So that's how we got to America. I am an American citizen. Arkansas is home to me. My children were born and raised here. I had an amazing mother. She passed away of breast cancer. And my mother had taught my sister and I that in this life, we don't just here for ourselves. We're here to also help others. We were so poor. I didn't even know how poor we were. But I knew that I had the love of my mother and the community. And you have great people here in Arkansas. I actually got married young. Because, you know, in my family, my mom was very strict because she was very protective of my sister and I. And I was a single mom by the age of 19. I was so poor I couldn't even afford to go to school. But I worked 4 jobs. I bought my first HUD home when I was barely 21. I couldn't afford to go to college, but I worked for a doctor's office, did medical billing for Medicaid, Medicare, and third party. I worked for JCPenney part-time, translate for the courthouse when they needed me, and I did skincare to help, you know, subsidize my income so I could buy that first home that I bought for my son and I. So I remember one of my great friends saying, look, you need to go to work for Walmart. I was like, look, I don't have a degree. This position requires a master's degree. I have none. I'm like, I have none. Really, I don't. They said, somebody, you got great people skill. You're doing what you're doing now. They could use your corporate. And sometimes we doubt ourselves. And people are always going to try to define you or dismiss you because you're not living in the right zip code, you don't have the right parents, you don't have a mom and a dad. To me, it proved that, you know, growing up, when I was going to school, I've been called every name you can imagine. From someone calling me the N-word, because my aunt and uncle looked like all of you. I grew up to where I almost took my life at age 14 because I was bullied all my life through school. I've been called the N-word. I cried, went home. My mother didn't even know what the N-word meant. I've been called ching chang, wet bat, you name it. So I almost took my own life at age 14. And then I thought, you know, my mom would be very sad because she loved us. It was just her and us. So, you know, when you're at a certain age, you just try to find yourself and you're lost. And you got kids and they just don't know any better. And they say things that are hurtful. And when you're at that age, you just don't understand. So I had an opportunity. I applied for the position that my friend had recruited me. And I thought, you know, what the heck? You know, I'm going to do this. And I applied, and out of 1,000 candidates, I was selected one of the top 10 for this company. And out of the 10, I was selected one of the top 5. And I thought, oh, I got really lucky. And then I got selected to the top 3. And I remember I had to sit next to someone that had a degree. One had a PhD, the other one had a master's degree. And me, you know, I grew up like in the country. I didn't, you know, but I grew up with such loving community in my mother. And I thought, you know what, win or lose, I still have a position. So I try to acknowledge and say hi. You know, some people, when they're too accomplished, they just dismiss you and look at you like, oh. And I thought, oh, good luck. And they're like, oh, no, okay, whatever. You know, at least I acknowledge you. So after the end of the day, after 3 days, I got a job offer. So I beat out everyone that had a master's degree and a PhD for the position that I had no degree, but because I had a PhD in people and my experience in life. I work at a chicken plant at 16-year-old Tyson Food because my mother wanted to teach my sister and I that in life you have 2 choices. You could be an employer-employee. And we work at the chicken plant during the summertime. I know it's a time about to be up, but I understand being a single mom, being poor, and people would dismiss you. But we're already making history. In the Democratic Party, it's the first woman of Asian descent, multicultural, a woman of color to run in history for governor of Arkansas. If the other party can do, we can too. If they say they win, we can win too. So it would take a woman. It's a year of a woman. I know it's all the time, but this time it's going to be a year of a woman. You're going to have a woman as your governor to take down evil and hate. I'm about people first, inclusion, not money first. So don't mistake it just because they raise all this money that we cannot win. we can win. It's about all of us. And I want to represent, I would be honored if you would give me your vote and help us take the people mansion back. It's not my mansion, it's your mansion. Thank you so much. Any questions? No question? You know I'm not shy. I used to be, but now I'm not. I'm here. I'm supposed to be. Yes, sir.
What would be your first act as governor?
My first act would be to make sure that our kids would not go to bed hungry. I want to make sure our education system, we're ranked 48th poorest state in the United States of America. They say thank God for Mississippi. 45th in education. We have kids that are, the only meal that they would get would be at home. The pandemic is very different. We've never been in this space before. So I would implement a program to where that our teacher gets paid, the wage they need, they deserve it, and that our kids should never go to bed hungry. I would also implement to where we would have a black card for teacher where they don't have to spend money to buy supply, and then our teacher don't need to go work 2-3 jobs. They gotta focus on making sure they take care of our kids so they can compete. And that our kids have education and health care that goes hand in hand. If third world country could do it, we could do it too. I ran a $100 million operation when I was 28 years old for the biggest company in the world, and every category had budget. And we could look at the budget and what category is doing great so we could fund the education category. So I was someone that they dismissed and said, look, I beat you, I went to Yale, Harvard. Now I'm sitting to where I'm hiring people who went to Ivy League college. And I'm determining their future when they dismiss me. So I know we have to take a look at every category. Yes, sir.
Thank you also for your willingness to serve your state and the nation. I'm going to save a lot of words because I know we're short of time. What can you do about the crime in our state? And what I'm talking about is just simply, maybe turn on the TV and it used to be, I wonder if anything bad's happened. Now it's, I wonder who got shot today. It's an everyday thing.
It is unfortunate that we have high crime in our state. I know that I'm not about defunding the police, I'm about refunding the police. Being over corporate recruiting, we must make sure we allocate money to pay the bright, brilliant individual that want to be in the police force. We're shortage when it comes to that. See, we have to make sure running a government is like running a business. We have to make sure we allocate fund because we have, in order for any community, any city in the state of Arkansas, you got 75 county, 3.1 million population? We have to make sure that we allocate fund to protect our citizen and our police force too. We have to make sure they're paid adequately and also train them. We have to make sure we train them properly. And that's important. So to answer your question, we have to fund our police department in every county, not by zip code. Does that answer your question? Because I know there's a big problem.
You will say your name one more time.
Oh, say my name one more time.
Yes,
How,
yes.
You want to say it with me?
No.
How about everyone say it with me? Supa. Cypress Sith. Mays. Thank you so much. It was an honor to be up here. You said plastic? Cypress Sith. I'm just joking. He said plastic. I'm like, no. You did it good. Cypress Sith.
Cypress?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Thank you so much.
You bet. All right. Let's see, that's the two candidates we have for governor. Up next is Secretary of State will be Josh Price.
All right, over here.
There, okay. Hey, Josh.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Hey y'all. Well, am I loud? I have a loud voice. How's everyone doing tonight? Good. My name is Josh Price. I am originally from a little town called Delight down in Pike County. How many of y'all know where Delight is?
Glenn Campbell.
Home of Glenn Campbell, that's right. Like a rhinestone cowboy. Don't get me singing. But I was born in Nashville, grew up in Delight in Pike County. My dad is a small business owner. He owned the only gas station and grocery store in town, which made me very popular with the kids because he would give them one free piece of candy when they came to the store to visit me. And my mom is a nurse from the Philippines. She came over in the 70s when President Marcos was president of the Philippines. Y'all probably remember his wife had all those shoes. Remember that? Yeah, so she had all those shoes. But my mom came over from the Philippines as a nurse to work in Arkansas. And she told me that when she was living in the Philippines, Marcos had declared martial law, and there were 9 o'clock curfew, tanks and soldiers going up and down the streets, no TV station, no newspaper for 3 years. So no freedom of speech, no freedom to vote, none of that. So when she saw that flyer that said, we're looking for nurses in Murfreesboro, Arkansas, she said, I don't know where Murfreesboro is, but it's probably better than Manila right now. So she came over to Murfreesboro, met my dad, and my grandfather was a World War II veteran and had earned a Purple Heart. My grandmother was the first woman to serve as Justice of the Peace in Pike County, and she was actually the one that introduced my folks. So my Granny Jean had a mild heart attack, and she was in the hospital in Murfreesboro, and my mom just so happened to be her nurse. And my dad had just got out of college. He went to UCA. He was single. And my grandmother said, Alan, you've got to meet my nurse. She's the cutest little Filipino girl you've ever seen in your entire life. So she hits the nurse call button. My mom comes in, white uniform that they used to wear, probably 98 pounds soaking wet. And she said, Mrs. Price, what can I do for you? And she says, Teresita, this is my son, Alan. Alan, you're taking her on a date on Friday night. And 3 years later, here I am. But anyway, grew up in Delight, kind of worked our way up I-30 to lived in Arkadelphia for a while, and then Hot Springs, and finally moved to Little Rock area in 1991. Professionally, I was an election commissioner in Pulaski County, so I oversaw elections in our largest county in the state. Also been blessed with the opportunity to work for a couple federal agencies. I've worked with the Delta Regional Authority, as well as the U.S. Small Business Administration. So I'm running for Secretary of State because that office oversees three things. Number one, first and foremost, oversees elections. And whichever side of the aisle you're on, it doesn't matter. Everybody's worried about elections right now. We got to make sure our elections are fair, that they're safe, and that they're accessible. And when I say accessible, I was in Yell County a couple weeks ago with Mr. Gibson right here, and they said they had 25 polling locations, now they only have 11. And people are having to drive 35 miles, not on the best road, to go vote. So, number one, it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican, Green Party, Libertarian, Independent, every American has the right to vote, period. That's it. Every American should be having the right to vote. If you're an eligible American, you should have the right to vote. Before we had our Democrats and Republicans, we had other parties, we had Whigs and Federalist parties. We always have that core American right to vote, so that's important. The number two thing that the Secretary of State's office does, it oversees small businesses. How many of y'all in here are a small business owner? So we got a lot of small business owners. How many of y'all got any kind of information from our current Secretary of State about a PPP, an economic injury disaster loan, or any kind of money that's out there for your small business? That would be none of y'all. So there's a lot of money out there. I know from working in the federal government, there's money for veteran-owned businesses, rural businesses, senior businesses, women, minorities. It's just about applying for that money and knowing that it's available. And then the third thing that the Secretary of State's office does, it oversees the Capitol grounds and the Capitol Police. And I also happen to be a Citizens Police Academy graduate and a Citizens Police officer. So this is what I'm bringing to the table as Secretary of State. At the end of the day, we need to protect our right to vote. Every American should have the right to vote, and every American should have the opportunity to own their small business. And as Secretary of State, that's what I want to do. So thank you very much for having me. Any questions, y'all? Any questions? Yes, sir.
Well, how you I agree that everybody has the right to vote.
Yes, sir.
Does the state have an obligation to make sure that whoever is placing that vote is who they really are?
Absolutely.
And how do you plan on making sure that that comes across?
All right, so the law says we have to have a photo ID to go vote. So as Secretary of State, I'm going to abide by that law, and I'm going to make sure that every Arkansan 18 and up has a photo ID. Because I think that's going to help you not just when you vote, but that's just going to help you all the way around. When you go to the bank, when you go to the grocery store, if you don't have a photo ID, people don't know that you can get a free photo ID through your clerk's office. And people don't know that. So Secretary of State, it's just about giving people the information, knowing that you can go to your local clerk's office. If you can't afford a photo ID, if you lost it, whatever reason, you can get that photo ID from your clerk's office. Another idea I had is, y'all have like the mobile library units, right? Like the bookmobiles. So when you go to the library, you can get your voter registration. So why not incorporate some of those bookmobiles to do it too? The reason I say this is my mom is 70 now, and she's got diabetes. She's got some problems with her legs. She's not really mobile. She doesn't drive, so her driver's license is expired, but she should still have the right to vote. She's a citizen. So it'd be kind of tricky to get her down to the clerk's office, but if we had these mobile units that's driving around neighborhoods, especially going to rural areas, then people know it's in your area of the city. They can come out there, they can get a free ID right there. So, not just having it available at the clerk's office, but also bringing it to the people, making it more convenient, especially for our seniors and folks with disabilities and medical issues. But I firmly believe that, the law says everyone should have a photo ID, then let's give them a photo ID.
Do you feel we should, whether the law says so or not, do you feel that there should be some way of keeping track of who is who and who is voting?
Yeah, I think that's...
not who is voting as far as keeping track of what their vote was, but
right.
making sure that they're who they say they are and they're not a resident of the local graveyard. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got to use an ID when you go to the bank and other places.
There's nothing in life that rarely is there anything in life that you can do without some form of ID.
That's right. And then, like I said, in that office, we'll make sure everyone has one. So, the thing is, if everyone's got an ID, we don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
And you are, I'm sure that there will be handicap accessible voting machines at the polling places for hearing, vision impaired, etc.
Yes, sir. So when I was in Pulaski County, we actually were one of the last counties to get the new voting machines. Just because it's such a big county, it's very expensive to have them all replaced. So we couldn't get all the ones we wanted because it would have been like $5 million or something like that. So we got enough for all of our early voting locations. And what's good about the new machines, y'all have the new machines here? Yeah, so you can zoom the screen bigger. There's an earpiece, so if you're visually impaired, you can make the screen bigger. If you can't see it all, there's an ear. You can plug in an earphone, you can listen, and it'll walk you through it. And then, of course, the poll workers can always assist you as well. Another issue we had in Pulaski County, because we had 120 locations in Pulaski County, 120 polling locations, which is a lot. But a lot of times it's churches and community centers that are volunteering to be a polling location, and they may not be accessible for folks with disabilities, but there's ways you can make those accessible temporarily. You can bring in ramps, you can bring in extra poll workers to hold doors for folks like that. So yes, we definitely want to make sure that everyone can vote, especially our seniors, folks with disabilities, veterans. We had a couple issues in Pulaski County with veterans not being able to vote. They had shaky signatures because they'd been injured, or they had old injuries or arthritis and things like that. So we want to make sure that, sir, to answer your question a little bit, while we're making sure that everyone is who they say they are, we also want to make sure that every voter is able to vote. And if someone has a stroke and they've got a shaky signature, give them a little, if we know that they are who they say they are, let's give them a little leeway and not toss out their vote because they got a stroke and their signature was shaky. So it's definitely a balance, but I think we can definitely do it. Any other questions? All right, well, thank y'all for having me. Again, my name is Josh Price. So next year, when you see my name on the ballot, remember Josh Price, vote for Price. The Price is Right for Arkansas. I can't put that on my materials, but I can say it. So Price is Right for Arkansas. And you can look me up, joshforarkansas.com. Email me at josh@joshforarkansas. Social media is Josh for Arkansas. Real easy to find. And you can come find me. I'll be standing over there. I got flyers if you need those. If you have any questions, come find me. Thanks so much.
That was Josh Price. I want to remind you the coffee cups that are on the table, that's some of the prizes. We're going to be drawing for those. You want to draw for one now or what? Does everybody have a ticket?
And I'll put the other half in the jug for you. I think you can.
And if you're still coming up here to talk, if you will, please remember 5 minutes to talk, if you will, then ask for questions. I go on the air, I get to the radio station at 5 in the morning, and I hate to leave from here directly to go to the station.
You sound familiar. You're a wonderful radio voice. Okay.
All right, let's draw here. And the number is, I'm going to do the last 4 digits, 3346. 3346. We don't know. 3346, going once. Going 2 times. Go. All right. Draw again. That's 4 digits. 3328.
There it is. Grab what you want.
All right, get a coffee cup. Don't take it out of anybody's hand, though. Just, you know. All right. All right. Up next is a person running for U.S. Senate, Jack Foster. Jack said he drove all the way up from Pine Bluff.
Come on, please.
Good evening, everybody. I got to do a little housekeeping before I get started here. First of all, I want to thank Paul and her group for inviting me up. She had called me and she told me when it was. First it was Monday, then it changed to Tuesday, but I told her I would be here. Number 2, because I got to go back home, I need to introduce my wife, Johnny Foster. We've been married 37 years, 7 kids and 15 grandkids. I'll give you a quick bio of me. Born in Eudora, Arkansas, raised in Lake Village, Arkansas. After high school, I went into the military, served in Vietnam, came back. It was an unpopular war. Got spit on in Fort Lewis, Washington. That was a sign of the times for Vietnam vets. How many veterans in here? Would you raise your hand? Thank you for your service. I'm running for this position. I'm not running against anybody. I'm running for the people of Arkansas. We don't have a voice in Washington no more. We don't have a voice up there any longer. The bottom line is that being a former city council member, I understand the bucket of money that's there. It don't go very far. Same thing applies to counties too. And my belief is this: as your U.S. senator, cities and counties should have a liaison where they can reach out to the senator's office and say, look, we need X, Y, Z, and that senator's office get to work. That's not happening. We don't get that. You know, those 6 people we have up there now from Arkansas, they don't have an Arkansas agenda. They have a national agenda. The people who sent them there have been shortchanged. That is wrong. I served in Vietnam. That was about democracy. It's gone. No one cares about democracy any longer. That is wrong. This country wasn't built on what we're doing now. It's not. You've got one party against another, and the people are caught in the middle. That is wrong. When elected, I'm not going to say if elected, when elected, I want to change that. I want you to be able to say, I have a senator that has my ear. He will listen to what I have to say. And I'll do that. It's a thing about being a former council member. I understand sometimes because I wasn't a conventional type politician. I wasn't. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And if it's right, it's right. So the bottom line is, if you were wrong, I didn't care who you were. I'm talking about, I would call you out. Call you out. That's not happening any longer. We need a voice in Washington. I am that voice. Now, if you want to send somebody back up there that's been doing the same thing for the last 12 years, do that. And you'll continue to get the same thing that you're getting now, which is nothing. Nothing. Now, from a historical point of view, and kind of looking at what Supa said, Arkansas has never sent a minority to Congress. In the history of this state, it has never happened. Every state surrounding Arkansas has sent a minority to Congress. Arkansas has been left out. Why? Why is that? I'm talking about people of color can function too. You know, we had a president that was a person of color, if y'all recall, and didn't do too bad of a job. Some things I didn't agree with, but he didn't do too bad of a job. So what I'm saying to you is that people of color should have an opportunity to serve too. And I think that we should be given that opportunity. Now, I passed out some cards, at least my wife did, and it has my cell number on it, because I know some people might have some questions and they may feel a little reluctant to speak in public about it. Call me, and we can discuss it. I don't have a problem in doing that at all. I don't. Now, If you look at where Arkansas is right now, those 6 rascals we sent up there in Congress, every last one of them voted against the infrastructure bill. Arkansas needs roads and bridges as worse off as anybody else in this country. How can you vote against that? How can you vote? You're voting against the people who sent you there. That is wrong. You want to change that dynamic? Send Jack Foster up there as your next U.S. Senator. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions? Yes, sir.
Foster, you spoke of infrastructure, and if I'm not mistaken, we had a bridge in West Memphis. Is Arkansas responsible for that bridge that had the crack that was found, it was falling apart? Or is it have?
I think that crack was on the Arkansas side.
Okay.
Okay.
And what's your thoughts on how long that went unchecked? And you talk about infrastructure, is that some of the things you want to improve upon?
It should be, our bridges should be safe. When I did my announcement, infrastructure, and it hadn't passed at that point, it had not been signed. And I supported infrastructure, and I still do, because it's needed in Arkansas. Come on, folks, let's be real about it. Arkansas is a poor state. It's a poor state. There's pockets of poverty all over this state, and not just where people of color live now. I've did some checking, and I've talked to some people around this state. It's all over the state of Arkansas. I talked to a person in Ozark, Arkansas, if anybody know where that is. Okay? And they were saying to me, Jack, we got major problems over here. Nobody wants to talk about it, do anything about it. That's wrong. That is wrong. The people you send to Washington should be there to represent you. If they're not doing that, bring them home. You can change them out. You know, it's like on a football team. If the guy's not producing, the coach pulls them out and puts somebody else in it to get the job done. That's what needs to happen in Arkansas. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
A major problem in Arkansas, and I've talked to the local business owners, and if you do the same, they will verify it. Can't find anybody to work.
What was that again, sir?
Can't find anybody to work.
Well, let me say something to that. The pandemic thing messed all that up. People worked before that happened. And then the government came along with one of these social programs that said, well, you ain't got to work for now. And a lot of people just said, I ain't going back. I can make more money doing this than going to work. So what needs to happen is that, but to be fair about it, I don't think our wages are where they ought to be. Most people don't work for a living wage in this state. They don't. They don't work for a living wage. They're working and they're in poverty. And that's sad to say, but that's true. Here in 2021, we got people working in poverty. They work every day and still get food stamps because they qualify because they're not making any money. Something's wrong with that picture, folks. We got to change that dynamic. And I'm the guy to do that. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
When you mentioned that the representatives from Arkansas voted against the infrastructure bill, there's really two sides to that coin where, in essence, they voted against the parts of that bill that were not true physical infrastructure. They voted against the social infrastructure parts of that bill, which really is a problem with the whole United States system of bills. If you have an infrastructure bill for hard bridges, roads, what have you, that's all it should contain. That bill contained many, many other things that had not a damn thing to do with infrastructure.
I understand that. But let me say something to that. In the political world, in the real political world, sometimes you got to take the bitter with the better. Because the way they structure that legislation sometimes, okay, they bring along everything else. You know, they got all this good stuff in there, but then somebody else adds something else on there on the backside of it. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. That needs to change too. But will it change soon? No, it's not going to change. Unfortunately, it's not going to change. But one thing I will guarantee you though is this, is that I want to be your U.S. Senator, and when elected, I'm not going to Washington to support a president or to support a party. I'm going to select the people of Arkansas. Okay, and I know that some people probably got problems with that, but that's just the way I am.
But don't you have to really, I mean, when you know what's going on in the country today, there's a lot of national problems that the senators and representatives are required to deal with that also, not just, I mean, I understand coming from Arkansas, whatever form of representation, Senate or House of Representatives, you need to keep Arkansas in mind, but you also have to keep the national level of the different changes that are going on, whether they're elected, by your group of people that you're representing or not. I don't really want to name any particular points, that are being contested now at a national level. But you have to pay attention to that too, am I correct?
You are correct.
Okay.
But let me say this. I told a friend of mine the other week in Pine Bluff, we were talking, and I said, when I get there, if President Biden calls me over and say, Senator Foster, I need your support on getting this done. My response is, okay, Mr. President, you need to get this done for Arkansas first. Because that's not happening. See, the political world, that's how it operates. I'm talking about, you want me to do something for you over here? You got to do something for my people over here that sent me here. I'm not just going to do what you want and then my people left with zero. That's wrong. And that's what's been happening too long. And it's time it ends. It's time that ends. When I look back on senators and congressmen that we've sent to Washington, like Mark Pryor and Ross and Ed Bethune and John Paul Hammersmith and those folks, the kind of problem we have now, we didn't have those kind of problems back then, if y'all recall. It didn't happen. They worked together. Even though we had a majority Democratic contingency in Washington, right? Because I think at one point John Paul was the only Republican up there, okay? But they still got along and got things done for this state. That has evaporated. We need to bring that back. Arkansas has to be first, in my mind, because we got a lot of problems in this state and a whole bunch of them are not being addressed. Anybody else? Thank you very much for your time.
All right, that was Jack Foster. Okay, we're going to go to State Senate District 24, Missy Thomas Irwin, who is with us from Mountain View, Arkansas.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Senator Missy Irvin, and I'm from Mountain View, Arkansas, from Stone County. I am so pleased to be able to now represent all of Van Buren County. I did have Fairfield Bay and a portion of it near Cleveland County, but now they've given me all of Van Buren County. So I currently represent Stone County, Searcy County, and I will have all of Van Buren County, Faulkner County, north part, the rural areas of Faulkner County, and then Newton County and parts of Cleveland County. Currently, I represent from Missouri all the way to El Paso, 9 counties. But in 2010 is when I put my name on the ballot, and the people of Randolph County and Izard County, Sharp County, Independence County, Fulton County, and Stone County elected me. And in 2010, my husband came into the bedroom and he said, "Quit screaming at the TV and do something about it." So I did something about it. I signed up and ran for office. I was the first person ever elected from Stone County to serve in the state senate, the first female to serve in that district, and the first Republican ever elected since Reconstruction. So let me tell you why. It's because 24 years ago, UAMS recruited my husband to begin a rural residency program. So he became the first rural resident. He's a family practice doctor, and he is very passionate about rural Arkansas and healthcare and access to good quality healthcare for rural Arkansas. So that brought me and my husband and our 2 kids at the time to Mountain View. 2 more kids later, and a practice of 24 years. I think we've worked on a lot of folks up there and their animals when the vet's out of town. Normally, I'm going to have cowboy boots on and blue jeans because I'm a cowgirl and a horse rider. So I do a lot, and so normally when you see me, I'm going to have cowboy boots on and jeans. But today, I'm dressed up because I came from the Capitol. And I brought with me my track record. I've been there since 2010. I've been on Public Health, Welfare, and Labor Committee. I've chaired that committee. I currently chair Senate Education Committee. And I want to tell you about how much I've gone to battle for everybody. And let me start with the life of the unborn. I'm pro-life. And because of my legislation and the legislation I've co-sponsored and voted for, Arkansas is the #1 pro-life state in the United States of America. #1. Let me talk about children and youth. I was the chair of children and youth. I worked together with all of my colleagues to get 100% vote on complete juvenile justice reform. That's very, very important that we really target and work with those kids and their families to make sure that they don't end up incarcerated. We need to go and help them before they get to that point. I worked with all of my judges in the judicial system and juvenile judges all across the state on comprehensive justice. Rhonda Wood was a huge champion of that, and she's on the Supreme Court now. Also, I worked on human trafficking. I changed human trafficking to put teeth in that law. And if you will recall, the FBI they busted a huge human trafficking ring that was in the state of Arkansas. And because of my laws, we were able to put those people away for a long time. I'm proud of that work. Talk about protecting our children. I do a lot of work with foster care and with DYS because all of our kids are important to the state of Arkansas. I worked hard this past session and I brought some of my legislation with me. Okay? I work hard. I've gone to battle for the kids. I've gone to battle for the veterans. I sponsored the veterans tax cut to make sure that your retirement benefits are not taxed in the state of Arkansas if you're a veteran. That was my bill. Let's talk about the grocery tax cut. We cut taxes on groceries. That's for everybody, and we continue to cut taxes. And tomorrow I'm going to vote and co-sponsor a tax cut on income tax because you work hard for your money and it doesn't need to be taxed at the level it's being taxed. And so that's going to be a huge, the largest tax cut in the state of Arkansas. And it's going to benefit every citizen in the state of Arkansas. And it's going to lower that top income tax down to 4.9%. And it's going to give middle income earners a huge tax cut. That's going to be huge for us. And it's going to be put money back in your pocket. And then where are you going to spend it? Right here in your businesses, your small businesses. I fight hard for rural Arkansas. I've gone to battle for rural Arkansas. The Rural Economic Development Commission gave me Rural Advocate of the Year award. They gave it to Mike Beebe, then to Missy Irvin, and then to Governor Hutchinson. I couldn't believe it, actually. But I fight hard for rural Arkansas. It's who we are. It's why we moved to Mountain View, Arkansas. And then this year, as chair of education, I worked hard to raise our teachers' salaries. Our teachers work hard, and we need to value those teachers. And education is only going to be as good as those teachers that are in the classroom. So we worked with our legislators and we worked hard to raise those teacher incomes. Let me talk about a couple other bills that I passed. State sovereignty is a big issue for me. Okay? Arkansas has to be for Arkansas. And we have to push back when there's federal overreach. And so I passed a bill that's a state sovereignty bill that's very important, that protects our constitutional rights in the state of Arkansas, and our state laws that we've passed. We are not going to recognize federal overreach that violates our Arkansas Constitution, our United States Constitution, or the laws of the state of Arkansas. Because we're Arkansas, and that's how we're supposed to rule for our citizens. And so I'm very proud of that bill that we passed at the end of this session. When it comes to Second Amendment, I'm going to fight hard to protect our Second Amendment rights. And I have legislation to have proven that. I also passed resolutions. I passed a resolution that I sent, and I had bipartisan support on it, to tell Nancy Pelosi to stop the impeachment trials. Why? Because Arkansas needed to get back to work. And it was causing us problems and issues, and we could not do our work at the state level. And so that ended me up on Fox and Friends, but I was proud of it. Because guess what? We need to be able to go to work in the state legislature for all the things that we need to do for our citizens. When you talk about infrastructure, I was on the CARES Steering Task Force, and we put infrastructure towards agriculture and rural areas for our meat processing industry to grow that industry. And then I'm going to talk about a couple of other bills that are really important to me. One was the Fairness in Women's Sports Bill. That was my bill. I think that Title IX and female sports are very important, and I worked really hard to protect our girls' sports. And I'm proud of that bill. I'm proud of the work that we did. I'm proud of the support that I got in the legislature. And I'm proud of all the different things I've done. And I want to talk about Medicaid, too. I redesigned the Medicaid program. Why? Because it's so important that all citizens are able to get the full resources of our government. We changed the Medicaid program into our home, which is health and opportunities for me. And we created a veterans home to help plug in our veterans so that they can have better access to the resources that our government provides for them, so they can have greater access to health care. We also have a maternal home. We've got to move the needle. We have way too many babies that are born at low weight births, okay? And our Medicaid dollars pay for those births. So we created a maternal home to make sure that women that are expecting have that access to that health care that they need on our Medicaid program. And then a success home designed to help our juveniles and those folks that are dealing with those different types of issues and transitioning in our foster care children. It's really important that we do that work. So I brought my legislation with me, and it's a lot of it. And I will tell you this, I don't agree with my husband 100% of the time. And I realize that people aren't going to agree with me 100% of the time either. But I do my best to be the voice for rural Arkansas. It is important to me. It is my family's mission. That's why we live in Mountain View, raised our 4 kids there. Mountain View High School they graduated from. And it's why we've worked so hard to provide good access to quality rural health care, and why I support rural education and keeping our schools open and our teachers paid as they should be. And I'm so excited to be able to be your senator. I have all of Buren County now, and I'll be on your ballot in May in the Republican primary, and I would appreciate your vote.
Quickly, any questions?
Any questions? Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, I got a question that's been bugging me for years.
Okay,
And with you being in the Senate Education Committee,
yes,
can you explain to me, when the lottery was passed years ago,
yes, sir.
they changed the makeup of kids getting scholarships,
Right.
okay? But what we voted on as citizens of this state, well, that money was to go to scholarships and grants. As we speak, the state of Arkansas has not put one dime into a grant. Not one dime. Now, let me expand on that a little bit. Because what's happening is that everybody's not a B student or better. Okay, for kids that are C students that graduate, we have C students graduating from colleges every year. Those kids get zero. And what I'm saying to you is, why don't we have a grant program working? That's what we voted for. Now, if you supporting the laws of Arkansas, you've got to support them putting monies in grants.
So let me talk about the lottery. It's a scholarship program. And the work and what we did change the parameters of how you qualify for the scholarship program because it was out of money. And we had to fix it. And so we did a comprehensive fix to the lottery system this year. It was bipartisan supported. And to ensure that maximum amount of money can go to those kids for scholarships. Now, what you're talking about, though, comes through enhanced student achievement funding.
No.
And
no,
I worked.
Seriously, no.
Yes, sir. I worked hard.
Citizens of this state voted that
It's
that
for
money was to go to scholarships and grants.
It was for scholarships, sir.
No,
Yes.
it's for grants too. And no one wants to hear that. And I'm gonna tell you why, because of the fact that people that ain't got nothing and they wanna go to college and they're not A and B students, they're not given an opportunity to go.
Well,
And
let me finish.
The state of Arkansas messed that up real bad.
Well, I would just respectfully disagree with you. The lottery.
I tell you what, for the sake of argument, go back and read what we voted on. And I'm gonna give you
I
my
have.
number. When you go back and see, just call them and we
Yes.
can talk about it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. The lottery scholarship is designed for scholarships for those kids. But I will talk to you about the college career coaching programs that we have that is specifically to your question. The college career coaching program we have enacted, and I have legislation on that I passed this session as well, to make sure that you have career coaches in as many schools in the state of Arkansas as possible to help connect those kids to either a 2-year, a 4-year, or to a certification program to help them on the path of success to, if they're not going to college, that we do have those grant programs. We've put over $40 million in workforce development and workforce grants. That is specifically designed to kids who are not going to college but may want to go and take a different route, like electrician or plumbing or welding. So we've put a great amount of money into workforce development and for those kids, and we've enhanced it through a career coaching program, which was my legislation that I passed this past session. There is lots of money out there for that. Yes, sir.
Yes, we need to take a look at what's going on with this. We recently got the funding bill passed, and then there's distribution being made to the state. I'm concerned about what's going on with USDA and FDA and the grants that are available to the farmers. SBA, small businesses definitely need help. Are you doing anything in that respect, in respect to those two concerns?
That's a great question. I will tell you, under the previous administration, we had a phenomenal man named David Branscombe from Searcy County, was the head of USDA under the Trump administration. David Branscombe is from Searcy County, and he was our USDA person, and under his leadership, under the Trump administration, the state of Arkansas received a ton of money in federal grants from the USDA, in particular our broadband and grants for broadband expansion. And that has been my number one issue for the past 4 years, is to make sure that people have access to high-speed broadband. I work to create a grant program for communities, counties, and cities to be able to apply for and do engineering studies to apply for the federal USDA grants. And we have worked hard in the legislature, and I have pushed and pushed and pushed to get grant funding to work with our communities and our citizens to have high-speed internet access at their homes. The Republican women championed this 2 years ago. In 2019, Arkansas was the 5th most regulated state when it came to broadband. We worked to deregulate, open up competition, making sure that people can provide internet service and that you can get it that's affordable and it's a good quality product. And so that was my legislation along with my colleagues, and we passed that bill in 2019. Then from there, we were able to add more people into the internet service provider space, okay? So you have your rural telephone companies, you have your electric cooperatives, you have other internet companies that are in the space now competing for your areas. That's going to get you a better quality of high-speed internet at a lower price. And that's what I'm about, because I do not think that kids need to do their homework sitting in the McDonald's parking lot. They need to be able to do their homework at your home, and if you're a small business owner and an entrepreneur, you need to have access to high-speed internet at your house and at your business. That is my number one issue I've worked for 4 years, and a lot of that funding comes through USDA.
Nor should they do their homework hungry.
That's right. I'm actually the chair of the Arkansas Legislative Hunger Caucus. And I've done a lot of work with our food banks and our Hunger Relief Alliance as well. And I just support all the food pantries at the churches and the food banks across the state. And I've worked a lot with our Hunger Relief Alliance, and I'm the chair of the Hunger Caucus as well. So appreciate that. Yes, ma'am.
I know you said you charged the human for the food.
Human
bank. No, food. Why are the kids in Arkansas still going to bed hungry?
Well, let me also
And
tell you.
also, I want to mention that your food bank, who the person's in charge of the food bank, couldn't even bring a food truck to feed our hungry Arkansans. You know what I did? I bought 60,000 pounds of food, and I'm not even elected. I'm not a politician. I'm a peopletician. You got a lot of kids and family have no job, and they're hungry, and you're in office, and you're telling me you pass all this. The broadband, where's the broadband? The kids still can't do homework in the rural area, and you're elected in office to make that happen. You keep saying you did that. It makes you have so much red tape that people that don't have access and don't have the money or the voice, and you're supposed to be their voice. I'm just asking you a question. You got a lot of family hungry, and then you got schools that are purging and throwing away lunches because they don't have 5 cents for lunch.
tell you, we're
Let me tell you about what the funding, I can go through all of the funding
Girl,
in
I
the
don't
state of
wanna hear all the
Arkansas.
funding and the paperwork, honey. You're in office, go do something about it. Don't
Let me
us.
tell you, I did do something about it. I stepped up and got elected by people that I serve, and I serve them.
No, I'm not.
And
I'm just
at the bottom line is I'm a servant. I serve the people that elect me.
Okay.
And I work with my local communities, and I'm just proud to be able to be your senator. Thank you for electing me. And thank you for
All right, and I tell you what, to move things along, we're gonna have no more questions, okay? We'll get to the point, you get to come up and you speak, and if you've got, and if you will, give us your contact information where we can get a hold of you, okay? Next, we've got Jared, is it Fox, okay. Yeah, he is also running for State Senate District 24 against Missy.
Thank you for having me this evening. Good to see such a good crowd here. I love seeing people who want to get out and be informed voters. And y'all are all here to be informed voters. You're not here for the free meal, anybody, right? All about being informed voters. My name is Jared Fox, and I live outside the Valonia area in Faulkner County. And I am running for State Senate District 24. And it seems like some of the main big issues that you run into when you're out campaigning and visiting with people, everybody wants to know where you stand on being pro-life. Well, I am pro-life. I am very pro-life. I believe that as Republicans and a lot of Democrats, we all seem to be pro-life and say we're pro-life, but the question becomes, are we pro-life past the womb? And all too often I feel like that people feel like the victory is there once the child is born. And the question is, are we nurturing as they go along, as they get older? We tend to see children that were born into bad situations that end up in problems. They end up in drug problems. They end up incarcerated. They end up as felons. What happens once you become a felon when you're 20, 22 years old? What happens when you're 40 years old and you've got that on your record? We've got to work harder for those kind of people to help them be able to get back into society and not have that stigma that's attached to them from things they did 15 and 20 years ago. When it comes to the Second Amendment, where do you stand on the Second Amendment, they all want to say? Well, I'm definitely pro-Second Amendment to the point that the way our gun laws are today, I don't feel like there's anything like what our founding fathers created them to be. We see red flag laws. We see certain people that can and can't own certain kinds of weapons. We see that if one person's got a certain license, they're allowed to carry their handgun places that other people can't carry their handgun. And I don't think this is what our founding fathers intended for us. And I've told somebody just the other day, I said, we're about 2 generations away from having to go to the government and rent a rifle to go deer hunting in November and return it back to them at the rate we're going with gun laws and red flag laws. So that's where I stand on those. When we talk about being in a rural area, this is definitely a rural Senate area. There's a lot of them. You take cities like Conway and bigger cities. This area has the biggest city in this area is less than 6,000 population. So it is a very rural area. And one thing that I want to focus on for rural people is the tax on used vehicles. That's been passed 25, 30 years ago, maybe longer than that. And to this day, there are still vehicles that have been sold and resold that are getting sales tax charged on them. So what more can we do to help the lower middle class and the poor in our rural areas than to get rid of that? If you or I, either one in our business, were charging for one thing 3 or 4 or 5 times, we would be in jail. But the state of Arkansas will charge you tax on that vehicle 3 or 4 or 5 times, and it's just part of life. It's just what you have to do to get your license plate on it. And so I want to see us do something about that for rural Arkansas. And another thing is that, and this is something that's always bothered me, and the more I've talked to people, the more I realize there are a lot of people on board with it. But the idea of having to have liability insurance on every vehicle in your driveway. You can only drive one vehicle at a time. Why can you not just get a liability insurance card on yourself and keep it in your pocket? Why is it that during those 3 or 4 months of winter when you drive your Jeep and everything that you have to keep that thing licensed all year round? Why is it that your farm vehicle that you only drive to town when you need fuel for it or need to take some cows in, why are you having to pay liability insurance on 4, 5, 6 vehicles that are all cheap used vehicles when you can only drive one of them at a time? And so as I visit with people and talk to them, I find out about things like that people would like to see changed and things that would help them financially. Am I at my 5 minutes already? Yeah. Well, all right. I had about 3 minutes more, but I'll be courteous and sit down. But feel free to visit with me afterwards. Thank you. Get my card after. And yeah, I've got cards here. Okay. So get my card and you can contact me through that. Thank y'all.
You bet. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. All right, up next we've got Attorney General Jesse Gibson, who's going to be running for Attorney General.
Thanks, everybody. I'm Jesse Gibson. I'm running for Attorney General. And when I got invited to come up here tonight, the first thing they said, we want some directions. I said, no, I know exactly where the fairgrounds are. This is kind of up from my neck of the woods. I was born up in Harrison, 1974. I'm 47 years old. The gray hair will give me away. I went to a little school called Lead Hill High School, and I always say if you know where Lead Hill is, you got a road map and a full tank of gas. So, and one thing I think is really great about this group tonight, we've got Democrats, we've got Republicans, everyone trying to have civil discourse. I'm going to find some common ground. Senator Irvin and I might not agree on everything, but one thing we do agree on is rural schools. I'm a product of a rural school that was always, and I mean always, on the brink of consolidation. And we fought that battle all the time. And that was something that always stared my community in the face. And it was something that would have just decimated their town, decimated their way of life. That's something that we can always find common ground on. So every time I go meet people, I get 3 questions. And they are so fair, and I want to answer them all. Who the heck are you? Why do you want to be Attorney General? And what do you want to do? Okay. Told you I'm from Lead Hill. The one blessing I had, growing up on the banks of Bull Shoals, I had 2 parents that were teachers, taught 2nd and 5th grade. And they forced me, encouraged, maybe, whatever you want to say, to do well in school. And I was able to go to the University of Arkansas when I graduated, got an economics degree, wound up at UALR for my law degree, got out in 1999. Got a job at one of the biggest law firms in the state, worked there for 3 years, and I hated it. Because I never got to sit and talk to actual people. I felt like I was a guinea pig on a little, or a hamster on a wheel. So I said, I'm going to do something else. So I just walked out one day and I started my own business, more guts than brains. And 20 years later, I'm still got the lights on. We're still practicing law. Now, I'm the former president of the Arkansas Trial Lawyers Association. I have championed and fought back attempts to limit your right to go to court and your right to seek fair and complete justice, statewide constitutional amendments that have tried to come out of several legislatures. I was the statewide leader as the president of the Trial Lawyers Association that defeated both of those constitutional amendments. I'm on the board of trustees of the Arkansas Bar. I tried probably, more than 100 jury trials, everything you could probably think of. Now, why do you want to be Attorney General? Kind of goes back to why I really left in the first place. That's because I sat across the table, just like I sat across from these nice folks tonight, and seen people who've suffered, seen people who've had a loss, had a problem they couldn't get out of, and I've seen how the proper application and empathetic application of the law can make their lives, maybe just this much better. And imagine that on the grand scale of 3 million people being the people's lawyer in the Attorney General's office. I want to return the Attorney General's office to one that really speaks for the people, have integrity, empathy for the people, and being sensitive to what they really need, which is a true advocate, a true consumer advocate. That little, I'll admit, some of the feeling that you get when helping people like that, it's a little selfish, it makes me feel good, right? But think of the benefit, think of the good that we can do for 3 million people, 3.1 million people, with someone who has my experience. I'm the only one in this race who's ever tried a jury trial, ever, in Arkansas courts. Been doing it for 22 years. Now, what do you want to do as Attorney General? We, together, are going to get Rachel from Card Services if it's the last thing we do. We're going to, it's funny, people always say, what I want to do is partner with law enforcement. And that just doesn't mean, Little Rock Police Department, it doesn't mean Van Buren County, it even means, yes, the federal government. Because and I get these calls in my office 2-3 times a week. Scammers, people who are out to try to take money from you. The problem is, a lot of times they don't live in Arkansas. They don't live in America. They could live in South America, where we have no jurisdiction to do much. Let's think outside the box. I hate that euphemism, but it's applicable. Partnering with federal government to stop scammers that are taking advantage of Arkansans for crashing out our borders. Now, we're told all the time, the federal government's bad. There's things that we all can disagree with. This is one thing I think we need their help, to try to stop people who are outside of our borders taking advantage of people inside our borders. That's one of the things I want to do. Another thing that I think we can find common ground on, and I've heard this gentleman here and Josh and other people, voting. Folks, it ain't that we're not very good at voting. Arkansas, we are dead last. Dead last. That's wrong. That can get better. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, independent, don't matter. Everyone should vote. And we should make it, just like we said, give everyone an ID so they can go vote and protect that right. People died for that. All the veterans, thank you for your service. People died for that right. We should do everything we can to protect it. I need your help. I'm a Democrat. People say, oh, you're running as a Democrat in Arkansas. Y'all, there ain't much difference between us. There's not. You know, I grew up around guns, got them in my house. People say, oh, you're a Nancy Pelosi Democrat. Okay, well, I don't know what that means. But we can find common ground on a lot of things. We can find common ground about what we talked about today, rural schools, voting. There's a lot more about us that is similar, that the politicians oftentimes try to drive a wedge on us because it's politically expedient. I'm not a career politician. I'm a small business owner like all y'all, and I need your help, I need your vote. Jesse Gibson for Arkansas.com is my website. I'm pretty hard to miss. I'm 6'4", 200-something pounds. So I'm pretty easy to find. If I got to duck out of here early, it is not because I don't want to talk to every one of y'all. It's that my 13-year-old's texting me saying, I got an algebra test tomorrow, and I need your help. So if I got to bug out of here, it's not because I'm being rude. So go to Jesse Gibson for Arkansas.com. My phone number should be on the website, but it's 501-951-9051. That'll ring right in my pocket. So anyway, I answered some questions beforehand. If you ever want to get hold of me, do that. Appreciate you.
All right, thanks, Jesse. All right, Carol Cruz didn't show up, did she? Okay, Carol, didn't her husband have a heart attack? Was it last night? Last Thursday. Okay, well, anyway, let's keep her in our thoughts and prayers. Coming up, Supreme Court, Chris Carnahan. Somebody shot at you or something?
Well, not all of us can have a missile go off. You need to cover that.
There you go.
In case you don't know, if you haven't seen the Command and Control, what do you call it? Documentary from PBS. There's a book out by the same name that I'm about halfway through, and I'm going to get through one of these days. It's thick, and I read real slow. But he's one of the stars in that, and covered that when we didn't know if the Russians had launched a missile at us or if we launched a missile at them, and all that back in 1978, 77. 80? Whenever it was, I remember it. I mean, it was a big thing. Because it got in the way of my cartoons. But anyway, I'm District Judge Chris Carnahan. I'm your District Judge here in Van Buren County. Pleasure to be with you tonight. I live in Conway, but I've been a deputy prosecutor here. I've been a deputy prosecutor down there. I've been a deputy prosecutor in Yale, Conway, Logan, and Scott County. City attorney for a whole bunch of cities and towns up and down the River Valley. And had my own small practice, as you want to do when you're a deputy prosecutor in small rural communities. And I thoroughly enjoy my time up here. I've enjoyed, a few years ago, Governor Hutchinson had appointed me as your circuit judge to fill in a vacancy that had been created when Justice Murphy went up to the Arkansas Court of Appeals. And so that was a great experience for me, not being on the side where you've got to be fair to both sides in a jury trial case. You're not just an advocate for the state or for your client, you're an advocate for justice. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running for the Arkansas Supreme Court. I think we need a justice who believes in justice for all, who doesn't pull punches or favor law enforcement just to get a conviction, doesn't favor defendants, just because they've got a point to prove about what our politicians do with our police force, but to make sure that everyone has a right to access to have a trial and to have it fairly run, and at the end of the day, we can have confidence that we come back with a fair and just verdict. Now, as your district court judge, I don't want to hear tonight about why you weren't going 65 and really going 59, which is still going too fast when you come down the hill into Choctaw. Thank God they raised that a little bit. And Sheriff, I know your guys were tired of it. Chief Solomon, where are you at? I know you were here earlier. Well, not Solomon, I'm sorry. Murdoch, I'm sorry. Please don't do that. Tell him I said that. Is he here? Oh, Lord. I got busted up, and there's Chief Willoughby back here. He's having a good time laughing at that. But, that's something that there's a feeling in Van Buren County that the Arkansas Department of Highway and Transportation gets away with more than they ought to. I think that's sad. A jury trial that came back one time, and it was an eminent domain case that just actually south of Choctaw there on 65, and the guy had offered what he thought was fair for the highway department to pay him what he was owed. They said no. We think your property, as we take up a couple acres, is really worth about $300 or $400. And so they went to trial, and your fellow citizens, in the middle of their deliberations, came back and said, "Judge, we got a note for you." So I took the note out and looked at it. "Okay, counselors, gather around. This is what it says." And you know how that is when you get a jury note, Mr. Gibson. We don't know what's going to be on there. And they said, "Can we give the plaintiff more money than he's asking for?" So, the highway department, they've got some fixing to do. But, why I'm here and what I'm running for is the Arkansas Supreme Court to make sure that we ensure fair access to justice throughout the state, that our courts are equitably run, and that the law is evenly applied. I'm an originalist. I believe words have meanings. They don't mean things just because somebody behind the bench changes. They mean things at the time that the legislature or the people passed the constitutional amendment. And that's how you should interpret them. If you want to change that, there's a way we do that. And we're blessed in Arkansas. We have access to put things on the ballot. We talked about the scholarship lottery earlier. Things like that can be put on the ballot, and the people can make those choices. Or our legislators can do that. And I want to thank Senator Irvin for something. When I found out that district courts across the state were taking people's money if they were current on their time payment agreements, they said, "I'll pay you, but I have to do it in installments," and the court said yes. And the courts, all they had to do was send in this thing, and they take their entire tax return from the state of Arkansas, whether they were current or not. Because of her, we finally got DFA to put a button on there that says we only take the people who won't pay us, not the people who are paying us. And that's something that, when I talk about judicial oversight and things like that, that might have been my idea, but I appreciate it, Senator, what you did, because I thought it made us look bad as a judiciary. But it required that legislative push, and DFA said, "Okay, we'll get ahead of this, we'll fix that." So that's a good thing. I probably passed my time. We're okay. Friends and neighbors, I would appreciate you going to the Arkansas Supreme Court. Just remember the C's. If you don't know me already, because it's tough. There's going to be a ton of judicial candidates, especially on the statewide level. Chris, conservative Carnahan. I appreciate you going. Thank you very much.
All right, here we go. Chris Carnahan. Okay, I think we're down to the county sheriff race. So we're going to start. There's so many of them. You get 5 seconds each. Okay. All right. Up first is our sheriff, Lucas Emberton.
Only get 5 minutes. I think I should get a total of what everybody else got all put together, because I could stand up here and talk all night. But I know that y'all do not want that. I'm going to introduce myself first. My name is Lucas Emberton. I am your current Van Buren County Sheriff. I'm very honored to be your sheriff. I started my first term in 2019. And I can't even begin to tell you the leaps and bounds of improvements that we've made. But I will tell you 4 different points that I made when I ran as your sheriff candidate in 2018 is we talked about employee training, okay? Employee training, we've had over 6,000 hours of employee training in the first 3 years, which implies that our guys are getting better trained to better serve you, to protect and serve the citizens of our county. Number 2 is our grant funding. Everybody knows how grant funding goes. To me, it's kind of like throwing mud at the wall. You just have to keep putting in, keep putting in, keep putting in. Whatever sticks, that's what you are granted for, and you use it the best way you can. We have completely outfitted all of our deputies from head to toe, except for the boots. I'm not messing with anybody's feet. But we have went all the way through and got everybody, their whole uniform that is issued. It makes it a lot easier to retain deputies and also bring in new hires when they don't have to spend extra money to come to work for you. I've been in those shoes. When you try to change departments, it's $500 plus to go to another department, get their color uniform, carry your own gun, have your own duty weapon, your duty belt, all that stuff. You don't have to do that at our department no more. I issue all of it to you, okay? So we've saved that. So then we move into budget. Budget's one of the things that I've been very proud of. We have worked within our constraints of our budget for the last 3 years. After being cut my first year, $286,000. That was in 2018 when I took office. I was minus $286,000. We've worked in the constraints of that budget for the last 3 years. Never once have I went back and asked for money. I don't need it. I'll handle it. We'll make it ourselves. Okay. We are debt free. We have paid off over $500,000 worth of debt that I come into office to take over. We paid that off. We are debt free, and we will continue to stay debt free as long as I'm in office. Another thing is that was for the last at least 8 years what we had record of. Just short 4 weeks ago, we had an exit state legislative audit, and the lady comes in and she says, "Sheriff, I just need you to sign it." I said, "No, that's not the way that goes. You normally come in, you sit down, you tell me what I've done wrong, you tell me what I've got to correct, and we go back and we have to explain that to you, and then we have to make the changes." She said, "There's no findings in your state legislative audit. First time for over 20 years in this county right here. First time in over 20 years in the sheriff's office, you have had a state legislative audit that was clean, squeaky clean. Okay? First time I've had service all night. My phone was But anyway, I enjoy being the sheriff. Over 50 plus employees in our office, in my office, and I want to continue to be your sheriff, and I want your vote in May of 2022. Lucas Emerton, Van Buren County Sheriff. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Lucas Emerton. All right, up next is John Willoughby. And we're going to do a drawing. If you don't mind, get up here and sit up here. We're going to do a drawing real quick, okay?
That'll work.
All right.
You got your ticket?
All right.
I think it's back there.
That's the reason we try to separate you from your ticket there. You know.
I remembered it.
Yeah, sure. All right, here we go. Last 4 digits. 3305. Close. 3305. Okay, we're going to do another one real quick here. 3390.
Still nothing? Are you sure there's duplicates?
Yeah, it says 3390.
Oh, here, Paula one.
Okay, go get your cup.
Did you know? It was Paul?
That's okay. We'll pick one out.
Okay.
Do another.
3364. Just start throwing the dang cups on the floor. 3342. Okay, there you go. All right. Up next, John Willoughby.
I'm John Willoughby. I've lived here all my life, except for the 5 years I was in the military. I've had 22 years of law enforcement, retired back in November of 2020. And I've sat around a couple of years and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna throw my name in for sheriff. I've worked under 4 sheriffs during my career. I've sit and I've listened to them. They'll come up here and they'll talk and they'll tell you, hey, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, you know. And at the beginning, they do it. They do what they say they're gonna do. But in time, it seems like they just kind of go off to the side here. They don't do what they say they were gonna do anymore. It's about something else. They forget about the people that voted them in. And I sit back and I look at that, and I just can't do that anymore, you know. I care about the county too much to stand by and watch them say, hey, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and they don't do it, okay? They may do some things, but they don't do a whole lot. I've always been about leadership and integrity ever since I took that oath for the laws of the state, to uphold the laws. I took that to heart when I took that oath. And I just can't, I can't stand by anymore and just say, hey, and see things that's going on that shouldn't go on, okay? The people's lost trust in their county. I hear that all the time. They've lost faith in our law enforcement. I was chief of police here at Clinton. I was chief of police at Fairfield Bay. I held myself to a higher standard. I've held my officers to a higher standard. And I'll do that as your sheriff. I'll hold them to a higher standard. Like I said, I took that oath 22 years ago. I've seen a lot. I've been through a lot here in our county. I've cried with several of the people here in the county when they've lost loved ones and everything out here on the road. I've seen things probably that make a Billy Goat puke. But I stayed the course, and I'd appreciate your vote for your sheriff, and I'll do the best possible job that I can possibly do for you. And I wanted to kind of make it short because, you know, everybody's been up here talking and everything. But Mr. Carnahan mentioned about the explosion back in 1978. I was 12 years old then. And you know, after that explosion, the town was full of people. If you remember that, it was full of people. People were standing out on the sidewalks, you know, and everything, worried about that warhead going off, you know. So my dad ran the pool hall down there in the center on Main Street. And everybody's crowded out there, you know, and Sheriff Gus Anglin, best sheriff. I really admired Sheriff Gus Anglin. He was out there for the people, always for the people. He didn't sit behind his desk. He was out there doing calls. He was out there amongst the people, just shaking hands, kissing babies, you know, and everything. So they were all congregated out in front of the pool hall, you know. They were all worried. The sheriff just about pulled his hair out, you know. He's like, you know, how can I get these people to calm down, you know. Kind of got quiet out there when my dad was standing out there, and he said, well, you know, folks, if that thing was to blow up, he said, you wouldn't even know about it. Guess I ain't gonna turn around. He said, JM, he said, I appreciate you scaring the hell out of everybody. You know, so, you know, but I'm gonna be a working sheriff. I was always a working chief. I didn't sit behind my desk. You know, Jay can tell you, I was out there taking calls. I never asked them to do something that I wouldn't do, and I still won't. But, you know, I appreciate everybody for coming here tonight. I mean, gosh, this is a good turnout. And just remember me, remember John Willoughby, and vote for me as your next sheriff.
So you did have to say you were 12 years old, so it makes me look like I'm. Yeah. I appreciate that.
We changed a lot.
Yeah. Funny story. You brought up Gus Egel. I'll throw this in real quick. That night the Type 2 missile exploded. Gus had been sitting in the police car along with the sheriff, or no, with the sergeant of the state police. And the microphone, he got it wrapped around his leg. And when that thing blew, he pulled out, and we got out of there as quick as we could. And Gus would go about 80 mile an hour, then he'd slow down to about 20. Then 80 mile an hour and slow down to 20. Finally, somebody said, Gus, are you having car troubles? And he said, no, I got to raise my leg to talk on the mic every now and then. Well, anyway, let's see. Let's go next with Eric Kuntz. Eric, get on up here. And then we got Kenny Lee. Kenny Lee, he's still looking at a map trying to figure out where Lead Hill is.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Cooks. I've lived in Arkansas. I was born in Little Rock. I've been a native Arkansan my whole life. I did spend a year in Indiana when my mom moved to Indiana. Came back to Arkansas. When I graduated from high school, everybody's worried about college and where they were going. And I thought to myself, my father, my uncles, my family have served their country, and I wanted nothing more. So I joined the military. I went in the Army for 4 years and spent a year overseas in Korea. I came back stateside and spent the other 3 years in El Paso, Texas at Fort Bliss. I enjoyed the culture, I enjoyed the experience, but I don't ever want to go back. It's just nothing but desert. Didn't really like it. I never thought I'd appreciate Arkansas so much till I came home. When I got home, I decided, how am I going to support my family? What am I going to do? And I got into law enforcement. I worked at the county jail for 4 years as a jailer and a dispatcher, and I gained a lot of experience in how that jail ran and what it took to operate it, day-to-day operations. After doing that, I got interested in going out on the road. And so I went to the city of Clinton, and I went to the police department at the time. Tony Parrish was chief, and he sent me to the academy. During the academy, it was the same time during 9/11. So I was in the academy. I was trying to learn how to become a police officer. We got called to the day room, and we saw the airplane smashing in to the side of the trade centers. And not only that day, as I was there trying to become a police officer, instilled in me the need and the necessity to serve the public, because our nation was under attack, and I wanted to do something. Everybody saw that, wanted to do something, and our hands are tied because a lot of us can't do anything but just see it. So I finished the academy. I came back and I worked for the city of Clinton. And I know John's older than me. We're distantly related. We're like third or fourth cousins. And I worked under John when I worked for the police department. He's a great chief. But that being said, he's older than me, but I worked under more sheriffs than he mentioned 4. I believe I was under 5. But I spent a lot of time at the sheriff's office too. So in 23 years in law enforcement, I worked under several sheriffs. I worked under Chief Willoughby. I didn't have the pleasure of working under Chief Murdoch. I worked side by side with him. He's a great officer. I have a lot of experience in law enforcement, and I want to put that experience to work for you. John touched on a lot of things. He's talked about people that are disgruntled or unhappy because used to we had a 2-year term, and in 2 years we got a new sheriff or an opportunity to get a new sheriff if people were unhappy. This last go around was the new 4-year term. Lucas came in. He got that 2 years plus 2 more, and people in the first 2 years seemed very happy, very content. They thought that he was doing a pretty good job. But like John said, things are changing now. People are walking up to him in Walmart, walking up to me in Walmart and saying, man, I hope you run. You know, we need change. So I think it's time. I'm not going to say anything bad about any current administration. I just want y'all to have the opportunity to make a choice if you're ready for change again. You've got several running, so you've got a slew of people to go through. Just do what the last election that I ran, this is my 4th time to run for sheriff, but I want y'all to do this. I said it last time, and I'm going to drive it home this time. Do your homework. Check into your candidates, check into their experience, and find out who they are. Not just as a person, but talk to people that's known them a long time. Get to find out their history, their past, their abilities to function, as John said, as a leader. A lot of people will tell you that have known me, I have been dedicated to serving the community my whole life. The 4 years in the military, 23 years as an officer. I retired. Now I work for Indiana Transport. I'm gone a lot. I've put 92,000 miles on a new truck since February. And as soon as this is over, I'm leaving tomorrow and putting more miles on. If I can be your sheriff, I can cut down on the amount of time I'm gone from home, and I can be here and serve you and be closer to my family. It's a win-win for me, and if you vote for me, it's a win-win for you. I will serve you, and I will do the best job I can possibly do for you. Anybody have anything else? I'm close to 5. I'm good? All right. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Kareem, and thank you, Paula, for putting this on. Y'all did a wonderful job.
Thanks, Eric. All right. Let's see. Up next, Kenny Lee. Did you ever find the Good Hill on the map? You somebody from Limestone and you couldn't find it?
I know right where Lead Hill's at. I grew up at Western Grove. Conference game. Played Lead Hill a lot. Okay. Had some good ball players. I'm Kenny Lee. Running for sheriff here. I'm here with my lovely wife, Miss Carolyn, and my campaign manager. I was told to say that.
And I recorded it.
Anyway, we're here seeking a change in the sheriff's office. If we didn't feel like we needed a change, we certainly wouldn't be running. We have visited people all across the county. We started several months ago, checking to see if the feeling of the people was the same as mine was, that we needed a change, that we weren't being served out in the community like we felt like we needed to be. We have had a rash of robberies in our county. We feel like that the sheriff's department didn't respond correctly. So therefore, we want to change that. We want to be a sheriff that's hands-on and works with the department. Now, your sheriff said just a minute ago he has something like 50 employees. Well, that's getting to be a lot of people to take care of. Well, we ran a business. I ran a business with my wife, Carolyn, Lee Co. Fire Equipment. We serviced 3 states selling fire trucks. I worked the southeastern United States, 12 states, with the rescue service. We had dealers in all of those states. We had to work with those dealers. We had to make sure that we were doing a good job. We had to make sure that they did their job. If they didn't, we had to do something about it. And you had to be very careful with people when you're in business that way. You know, if you let somebody go, the next thing you know, you're doing his job along with yours. So management is very, very important with these employees to make sure that everybody is working together hand in hand. And one of the things that I have told people that we were going to say that we were going to do tonight is we visited with everybody all over the county. We want to bring the scanners back. We want the citizens of the county to be able to know what's going on in the county. Well, when I was sheriff here 35 years ago. This scanner was one of our biggest assets. If we were out there and we were having a problem or something and we didn't know what to do, people that were on the scanner listening to them was calling us and giving us directions, giving us help. So you need people's help. You need the citizens' help. And with the scanners, we want to be able to go in and work with our fire departments, with our emergency workers. They're our first line of people out in the county. That's who we depend on. People in the city maybe not realize that it's bad, but we do depend on our fire departments. We do depend on our EMS people. And so that's something we want to do. We want to get back to working with the people. And we want this open door policy with our city, with our state officers, to where we're working together. And you can do that. At one time, we shared one office. That one office worked for the county, it worked for the city, it worked for the state, or anybody else that came in. So we all work together and we can do that. So with that, I'll keep it short here. We want to come in, we want to work with people, we want to protect people, we want to respond to the people. When somebody makes a phone call to the sheriff's office and they want to talk to the sheriff needs to talk to them. So that's where we're coming from. We want to work with the people, be with you, serve, and protect you. Thank you.
It was Kenny Lee. Mark West, are you here? All right. Up next is Mark West. We're going to get to some of the other office holders. They have said they don't want to speak. They just want to, we're going to call their name. They're going to stand up and wave as they go out the door. All right, here you go.
My name is Mark West, and I own the motorcycle shop here in Clinton, in case some of you guys didn't know. I grew up in Sacramento, California, and I spent about 9 years here in Arkansas, and that's probably the best decision I ever made was to move here. I've been in law enforcement for a while throughout my career and my life. I have worked at Van Buren County Jail, and since I didn't grow up here, I think I have a neutral view on what's going on. Accountability and equality. I think that everybody should be treated the same and nobody should be treated different, whether you've been in trouble or not, or if you're a felon or anything like that. Every citizen and every deputy should be held accountable for their actions. The Constitution says we the people, not we the government. I stand by the Constitution and I'll stand by the people of Van Buren County. I encourage open carry for everybody in Van Buren County. The Second Amendment is your right to bear arms. I'd rather have you guys have a firearm and not need it, but not have one. My question is, why isn't there any deputies at some of these community functions? Like we were at the carnival, and after we left, there was some talk on Facebook about a guy and a girl trying to get people in a car, human trafficking possibly. I didn't see a city cop. I didn't see a sheriff's office. Nobody. The fireworks up in Allred. I didn't see a deputy up there. I didn't see Medic 1 up there. I did see four-wheelers driving down the road, which that doesn't concern me very much. But what did concern me was DUIs. People were driving, drinking with little kids on these ATVs, and all you need is a car to come in and hit somebody, and we got a tragedy. be more involved with the community, like Kenny Lee said. You know, we got to be here for the people and listen to what they got to say. I want to have an open door policy. If you guys need to talk to me, you can come in the office, sit down, have a conversation. If you felt like you've been done wrong, we can fix it. I want to actually assist and adopt the animal shelter into the budget of the sheriff's office if I can do that. I think with as much money as we spend on the budget, we can get there. You know, they shouldn't have to close or need donations. We should be able to provide them with what they need. Work closer with Medic One. You know, they're part of the community. We need to help them out just as much as they need us. Hire more deputies, but since I've just been heard that we have about 50 deputies, I think that that's probably enough for Van Buren County. Body cameras. I think that body cameras need to be worn by all deputies because that can solve a lot of he said, she said, and I would release those body cameras on the website. If there was an incident that happened, I want transparency. I want you guys to know what's going on so no one can have rumors or anything like that. The jail. I want to put 2 females and 2 male jailers at one time and have 2 dispatchers at one time. Because I think that's the way it should be. You know, you have 80 people in there, you guys need to be taken care of. Put 2 deputies per car. It cuts down on fuel. We're in a rural area. We're going to calls in the middle of nowhere. You can't wait for backup to show up. You're cutting down on everything else and all the problems. Patrolling instead of sitting at the gas station. I drive through Choctaw and see about 4 or 5 SUVs sitting there. You could be doing something somewhere else. Bring back some of the old courtesies. I think that there used to be a time where you said, hey, I had a little too much to drink at the VFW. Can you guys pick me up and drop me off at my house? I think that there's no Ubers or taxis. I think we could possibly make that happen. Small infractions. People said, how are you going to cut down on the jail and the problems of cluttering up? If you got a small infraction, cut them a ticket, give them a court date, let them show up, and we can fix that. Release juveniles to their parents for small, minor infractions. I was more scared of my parents than I was the law, and I figured that's something that can be taken care of at home. Bring back mental health interviews. There's people with mental health illness here in Van Buren County, and if they're suffering from a crisis, they need to be taken somewhere that can help them, not put them in jail. I mean, I'm sure we can work through their charges and figure out what the best solution is, but at least give them a chance. I want to bring a program for senior citizens called the STARS program. It's called Sheriff's Team of Active Residents in Service. Their jobs consist of neighborhood patrols, vacant house checks, community events, like they could have been here and with a radio saying, hey, we need a deputy. Traffic control, we don't need to tie up a deputy with traffic control. Maintenance of our vehicles, they took them to get fixed. Community watch programs, and they can actually volunteer at the animal shelter. A cadet program. Kids are going down the wrong path in school. If they have problems, they can join this program, and we can get them training, and if they want to be part of the sheriff's department, we can hire them when they're of age. School resource officers. I don't know what happened and why we only have one now, but I would want to fix it. I say that because we had threats against our school. I guess there was a incident where a guy said he was going to go to the school with a firearm and they didn't shut school down. Has anybody heard about that? I believe that I would have shut school down and we would have found this guy and no kids would have been at the school. I went to a school that was taken over by a shooter. He called and said, hey, I'm coming to the school, release the school. And they're like, no, you're not. He did. He hurt 7 people, and he took over the school for 8 hours. Ozark Health, the hospital. Bad weather. Everybody calls in. I can't make it to work because 16's so bad. It's treacherous. We can't, get to work. Call the sheriff's office. We'll get you to work because everybody needs help at the hospital. Just rebuild trust. No one trusts law enforcement nowadays. If you make it transparent and tell everybody what's going on and work with the community, they'll trust you. I'm against mask mandates. It's your choice. If you guys want to wear masks, that's great. If you're for the vaccine, that's great. You shouldn't be held. You shouldn't feel like you should be pressured to do this. But if you like what you hear, vote for Mark West. Thank you guys.
Okay, that was Mark West. All right, I tell you what, we skipped over a gentleman. He's running for the State House of Representatives, Rick Beck. Rick, can you hear? He's on his way coming up here, all right? And once again, we're going to, when we get to the some of the office holders, some of you want to talk, some of you just want to stand up. If you want to talk, you know, come on up. If you just want to stand and wave, you can do that. All right. Rick Beck.
Thank you. And thank you. It's a great event. When I was thinking about what I might say this evening, I thought, this is a new territory for me. It's a new area. A lot of you guys don't know me. So I thought, well, how great it would be if I could give you a little peek inside of my world so you know who I am and I won't surprise you with how I voted and all of that. So I want to start out by saying I grew up right down Highway 95 in a little community called St. Vincent. That's where all the Becks are from. That's usually, when I tell everyone my name's Rick Beck, they say, are you with the St. Vincent Becks? And I am with the St. Vincent Becks. I currently own a small farm in the community just south of here called Center Ridge. I lived there with my wife for 30 years, Sheila. We've been blessed with 2 children, my son Austin and my daughter Madison. I'm a state representative for District 65. And District 65 is Conway County and Perry County. Now, due to the redistricting, I'm going to be moving up north into this area in Van Buren County. And one of the questions I get is, am I going to be running against Josh Miller? And the answer to that is no. Josh's district has moved to the east as my district moved up to the north. So now I'll tell you a little bit about me politically. I think it's important that you don't, if you know my motivations and how I do my political thinking, then you will never be surprised by my vote. And that would be my goal. All right. I am a Republican. I am a social conservative. I'm a fiscal conservative. So now let's break those down just a little bit. What does that social conservative mean? I'm a very blessed man, and I recognize that God has blessed me. And when I'm dealing with social issues, I will use His principles to guide decisions related to social issues. I'm a fiscal conservative. That's an easy one. I think that you're a better steward of your money than the government is. I always jokingly tell people if you give the government $1 and we give you 25 cents worth of service back, you're a winner, right? So I really believe that you're a better steward of your money, and that's why I voted. And if you check my voting record, you'll see that I look to push money back, keep more money, more of your hard-earned dollars in your pocket. As a Republican, I believe that government is best if it's local. I like to say, let's give the local the resources that they need to help people. They can be more responsive to you, and they have more accountability to the local people. So that's what I do from a political standpoint. I will tell you that I'm a much better listener than I am a talker. As an engineer and as a politician, one thing that I've learned is this, excuse me, is that the best solutions and the best plans come when you first listen to the people. I hate it when people off in the state capitol or when I was in corporate America off in some conference room go to start solving a problem before they talk to the people nearest to the problem. That's what listening does. To me, it's crazy for the government to come in and say, let me tell you about your problem and how to fix it. When at first, what we should have said is, what is the problem? Let's make a very eloquent solution and a plan. And I can't do that. No one can do that without first listening to you. So I will listen to you. The phone that's in my pocket is the phone that's listed on my website. It's listed on all my documentation. And I do that because I want the people in my districts to be able to call me. And I think if you talk to some of the people in the Conway County Perry area, they will tell you that I answer my phone and I am there when they want. I want to hear your input. I've always said that probably of all the legislation I've done, some of the 6 best legislation that I've done were directly related to someone came in and said, someone should look into this. And when I looked into that, they were absolutely right, and we were able to take care of it. So that's what I want to do. I will tell you a funny joke about, or story, I guess, about a lady called me up one day. I answered my phone. I said hello, and she goes, "I want to talk to Representative Rick Beck." And I said, "Speaking?" And she says, "No, I want to talk directly to Representative Rick Beck." And I said, "Ma'am, this is Representative Rick Beck." And after going back and forth, I finally got her convinced that she wasn't, in fact, talking to Representative Rick Beck. So we talked about her issue a little bit like that, and before she got off the phone, right before she said goodbye, she said, "You know, you really should get somebody to answer your phone for you." So anyway, I do believe that listening is a better trait than most people. A lot of people tell you what your problem is, as opposed to before they listen to what it is. In the next year, I look forward to meeting and talking with as many of you as I possibly can. And with that, I'll close by saying, God bless Arkansas, and God bless the United States of America, and Merry Christmas to all.
All right, now we come to some of the office holders, local. If you want to say something, rush up here real quick. We'll start with Pam. Do you want to say anything?
I'll just say hi. Remember my name, Pam Bradford for Van Buren County Clerk.
All right, that's Pam Bradford. We also have County Assessor Emma Smiley with us.
I'm Emma Smiley, and I'm the current assessor, and if I have any moment, I would certainly appreciate your vote. I love serving you.
All right, thank you. For Circuit Clerk, Debbie Gray's with us.
I like to talk, so.
Well, go right ahead.
No, I'll be short and brief, but I have to say something. This will tell you a little bit about my personality. Everyone that has spoke tonight, I've thoroughly enjoyed. I've learned a lot about each of you, but the one thing I have worried about all night is this court. I watch everybody's feet, because I know somebody's going to get hung up in it. So I'm going to do this because it will be me that falls on my face. My name is Debbie Gray. I am your Van Buren County Circuit Clerk. I have lived here my entire life, 52 years, if anybody wants to know. My family had a business on the Court Square. I cut my teeth on the sidewalks in downtown Clinton. I'm a downtown girl. I love our community. I love everybody in our county. I love serving everyone. I was district court clerk for 17 years. Enjoyed that. Worked for several attorneys here in town before that. So I'm pretty well stuck here, and I'm very happy about that. I don't have an opponent at this time. I hope I don't get one. But if I do, remember my name, Debbie Gray. I love my job. I love the community. None of us are perfect. We all have issues in our offices and day-to-day stuff that sometimes we need to fix. That doesn't say we're not trying to fix them. It just sometimes it doesn't work out as quick as we would like for it to. Anyway, I won't take any more time. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks to all these ladies over here and gentlemen that put this together. It's amazing, and the food was good.
All right, Debbie Gray. County Collector Laura Shannon. Okay.
I'm Laura Shannon, and I hope to be able to serve the citizens of Van Buren County for 4 more years.
Laura Shannon, the County Collector. Also County Treasurer Misty Wilson. Yeah, there's Misty.
My name's Misty Wilson, and it's been a pleasure to be able to serve Van Buren County for the last 3 years, and I hope to continue in my next term. Thank you.
Okay, that's Misty Wilson. Joe, do you want to come up here and say anything?
I'm Joe Sophie. I'm currently your county coroner. I'm just asking for your vote and support next year, but you know, if you have any questions, you know how to find me at the funeral home or even up an annex. Like I said, just ask for your support, and I'm asking for anybody who wants to help me. Have a long way. Appreciate it.
Joe Susan. California. County Judge Dale James. Dale, do you want to say some stuff?
Of course.
Okay. He likes the mic as much as I do.
Okay, now I wrote it out, so I won't be long and I'll read through it fast.
So first of all, thank you, Corrine, Paula, the Fair Association, Adam, Sid, everyone else who made tonight possible. Tonight is great. Thank you for attending. It's been said that a tree should be judged by its fruit, so I'd like to look at the robust crop of fruit that's being harvested from the tree we know as Van Buren County. Van Buren County skyrocketed to the number 6 most transparent county in the state of Arkansas as judged by a non-biased third-party organization. The ranking is based on a 3-year rolling average, so to already be at number 6 is nothing short of amazing. In the first month on my job as Van Buren County judge, I learned that the Van Buren County Library was in financial distress and that their building payments could no longer be made. We now have the funding set aside and secured for the library, which will serve Van Buren County for generations to come. Van Buren County's volunteer fire departments and rescue squad are better funded than they have ever been in history. Better emergency services and emergency response makes for a better Van Buren County. The county general account balance shows a better carryover and a healthier day-to-day condition than was previously imaginable. The county's financial condition is strong, and that is thanks to a great partnership between the Quorum Court, myself, and the county treasurer. The county's reserve fund is also strong. Even beyond what is earmarked for the library subsidy, the reserve fund is over $1 million strong. The county judge serves as a member of the board on the Van Buren County Aging Program. That program was also to the point of bankruptcy and actually was facing closure. Not only are they safe now from closure, they have a workable account balance. They are prepared financially for unforeseen disasters and breakdowns, and our people who work there this coming year are going to get paid better than they ever have before. The Van Buren County Solid Waste Program was a money-losing venture, being previously subsidized by County General by up to $100,000 a year. The program is now freestanding, supporting itself without any county general subsidy. If you have visited the facility lately, you will see that the improvements that are being made have been needed for a long time. All the improvements are being made and funded by proper and effective management. Even though the financial picture has improved for County General, through the COVID pandemic, funding for county roads took a massive hit, over $500,000 to be exact. We were able to maintain the course even with the revenue loss because of the positioning that occurred before COVID. Crushing our own rocks is no longer a political idea, it is a proven fact that it saves us. We are pursuing grants and getting more grant-funded projects approved each year. We have restored the equity in the road department and are looking to purchase more mowing equipment for next year. The road employees are being paid a much better wage, and happy people make happy roads. Some of the most exciting news in recent history is Van Buren County's historical unemployment rate of 2.7%, down over a full percent below the previous record low. Naysayers can say whatever they want about that rate, but the same metrics were used to derive this rate that were used to derive record high rates in the past. Even more important than the financial condition of Van Buren County is the condition of our children. By raising awareness to the Van Buren County's epidemic of children's sexual abuse and the acquisition of the office, at the local office of the Children's Advocacy Alliance at the Courthouse Annex, the abused children of Van Buren County now have hope of a better tomorrow. All of this was completed with no increase in county funding millage rates. There have been policy changes which have helped to strengthen the position of the county. The personal use of public property is a firing offense for any employee that reports to me. Positive drug tests and/or the refusal of drug testing results in immediate termination. We're doing as much work as we can on our own equipment. We're hiring Van Buren County residents to do Van Buren County work, and redundant tasks are being eliminated, and tax-funded job consolidations have taken place through attrition, which minimizes the size of local government and keeps your taxes low. Not only is our tree healthy, the fruit that is being bared is bountiful. And we can't stop here, we've only begun. It is morning time in Van Buren County, and we have a bright and exciting day ahead of us, but we have further to go. We haven't yet succeeded at attracting industrial labor, but we will keep on trying. Even though we have had a good run of new business announcements, we have more business announcements on the very near horizon. We can't make promises that we're going to attract them, but we can make promises that we'll try. Restoring our equity resulted in some debt. We're making great strides at paying off that debt, but we can't rest until we are debt-free. How will that bright and exciting day progress that we are just beginning? Let's let it progress the way it began. Please re-elect Dale James, Van Buren County Judge, and let's keep putting Van Buren County first.
Thanks, Dale. All right, Justice of the Peace, Dale Holt, are you here? All right. You want to say something?
All right.
Who wrote that speech for you?
I'm the District 1 representative, for the Justice of the Peace. I just appreciate it if you would vote for me again in the office. I think I've done a pretty outstanding job since I've been there in the last 12 years, so I'd like to continue. Thank you very much.
All right, there's Dale Holt. Sarah Brown.
I am the JP for District 3. I represent Shirley and part of the Fairfield Bay area. This is my second term, and I'm looking to have a third. So my number is very easily found, and if you have any questions for me, please don't hesitate to reach out. And remember me next year, Sarah Brown. Thank you.
All right, there's Sarah Brown. Nikki Brown. We got a bunch of Browns, don't we?
Browns,
Yeah.
I'm Nikki Brown. I currently serve for District 2. I'm serving in my second term. Born and raised in Van Buren County, so I'm honored to get to serve, and I would just appreciate your vote for a third term. Thank you.
Okay, Nikki Brown. Brian Tatum.
Ryan Tatum, District 7, represent Culpeper, Formosa, part of Scotland, part of Walnut Grove, Choctaw, over there. And just to address the elephant in the room, yes, I'm Debbie's husband. Have any questions, give me a call, come see me. I'm not a big social media guy, so if we want to debate something, give me a call or I'll come meet you. Thank you.
All right, Brian Tatum. Mary Phillips.
You ought to be able to hear me. I was a teacher for 30 years. I am Mary Phillips, and I am District 4, and I did this before. I just went blank. Ooh. Okay. I am not a native here, but my parents were from Greenbrier and Bologna, so that kind of makes me a native Arkansan. However, I was born in Livingston, Hampshire, England. Okay. Anyway, I got here by way of many other places. Okay. I retired teaching in Texas and spent part of my teaching years, 9 years, in Germany, where I met my husband. So we landed here, and many of you might recognize me as the Saturday lady behind the cashier at Wear and Share. And some of you might recognize me as the care cap lady. We made many caps for bald ladies, and we actually finished this year because COVID shut us down, but we finished with 100,000 caps. Every one of them given away free to cancer patients. This is my fourth term being Justice of the Peace, and this is a job that I have really loved. I get to see all kinds of things, I get to ask all kinds of questions, and I can ask lots and lots of questions. And I would appreciate your support for running for my fifth term. Thank you.
All right, that is Mary Phillips. John Bradford.
I'm John Bradford. No relation to Caroline Bradford. I tell everybody. I represent South Highway 92 South of the B Branch, Damascus, and Graysville area. And I'm running for my fourth term. I don't have an opponent, but if I do, I'd appreciate your vote, everybody.
All right, John Bradford. For the city of Clinton, we've got the mayor here, Richard McCormick.
Hey, Richard McCormick, Mayor of Clinton. Appreciate y'all doing this tonight. Appreciate folks that's traveled so far. All the decorum show of everybody. Appreciate that. Been your mayor for 7 years. Plan on running for a third term next fall. So thanks for considering me. Appreciate all my department heads and the job they do, and my council for the things they've done for the water department.
And drive through downtown Clinton and look at all the pretty Christmas.
There you go. Everybody did a good job on that. So especially Charles Wilson. Appreciate it.
All right, for that was Richard McCormick, the mayor. We got city council Jeff Pistol. Jeff.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Pistol. Ward 1, position 2, City of Clinton. And Judge Carnahan, I am the foreman. I was the foreman on that jury. I sent you that note asking if we got guys some more money.
JP? Russell Hensley? All right.
JP, Choctaw, Lancaster District 5. I got appointed. I have a opponent. I don't think I'll be able to run, but I appreciate the opportunity to serve in Buren County, and hope I do y'all proud. Thank you.
All right, now you've got coffee cups in front of you. If you'd like to take that coffee cup, I think there's some other decorations. Don't take those. The coffee cups, you can take those. And I want to tell you a quick story because I've done Trading Post for 44 years. People always say, "Does anything ever funny happen there?" I want to tell you the funniest thing that ever happened on Trading Post. This is about 20 years ago. Trading Post comes on at 8 o'clock every morning, has for years. About 7:30, this elderly lady calls me, and I answer the phone, KHBQ, and she says, "Trading Post, I've got 3 geese for sale." And I go, "Ma'am, you're early. It didn't start till 8 o'clock. Well, about 15 minutes later, the phone rings again. I answer KHBQ, and she goes, "Trading Post, I got 3 geese I want to sell." I go, "Ma'am, you're too early. You're going to have to wait." I go through Trading Post. She never calls. 9:15, the phone rings. I answer the phone. KHBQ, she goes, "Trading Post, I've got 3 geese I want to sell." I go, "Ma'am, you went through all the program. We missed it. You're going to have to call me tomorrow." Well, sure enough, next day starts the same way. About 30 minutes before the program, she calls and says, "Trading Post, I got 3 geese I want to sell." And I go, "No, ma'am, you're going to have to wait till 8 o'clock. I go through Trading Post. I'm even looking at the clock saying, "She's got a call. She's got a call." Get to 9 o'clock, she don't call. About 9:10, 9:15, it rings, and I go, "KHBQ," and she goes, "Trading Post, I got 3 geese I want to sell." And I go, ma'am, don't you have a clock?" And she'd go, "No, 3 geese. All right. We have a city council member.
Yeah, there may be more, but I know there's one.
If you're a city council member, if you will, stand up. Tim Barnes.
I'll just say this, I don't know how many people have actually been to Lead Hill, but actually having worked at the Department of Ed for 14 years, I can actually say I've been to Lead Hill, to their high school and all that kind of stuff, so been to about 98% of the school districts in Arkansas. But I'll just say I'm privileged and honored. I'm at Ward 2. My buddy Sammy Ward, he and I worked at Ward. Sometimes you might see us walking the streets and stuff, or I'll be in Sammy's truck and we go around and look. So it's really an honor and a privilege to represent that area. Honor and a privilege to work with Richard, trying to keep him straight sometimes, and he tries to keep us straight sometimes on the city council. But we've done a lot of good work. I think if you look at the city and say where we were 8 years ago and where we are now, we're in a lot better shape. And we've got a lot more things to go. This is just a wonderful community. You know, the accent is South Mississippi, so you know it's not Ozarks, but I got transplanted here by marriage, and I can tell you that Van Buren County and Clinton is special. I was principal over at Shirley for about 7 years, and so I talked about, you know, the other side of Weaver Creek, and those people are special too, Fairfield Bay, this whole county. But it's been a privilege and an honor. City Council, we file later on in the year, so we'll just see how that goes, but I would like to continue to represent the city, move us forward, and appreciate everybody tonight. It's been a wonderful event. Hopefully we can have some more and sponsor those. So thank you so much. Thanks, Sid.
All right. Did we miss anybody? Anybody else? Okay. Is that it?
There was one back there.
Is there one back there? Yeah.
I did not get put on the list, but my name is Jackie Sykes, and I am a candidate for mayor in Fairfield Bay. So if you want to check me out, I write for the local paper for the Van Buren County Democrat, have for a long time. So just look at my website, Jackie Sykes, Mayor, Fairfield Bay.
Jackie Sykes. All right, well, folks, that's it. Thank you all for coming tonight. Be careful, you will, as you're driving home. Hopefully, listen to me tomorrow morning, if you will, please.